Okay, I think we're ready to proceed with our next candidate, who is Diana Prito-Brune. So if you could have a seat up here, and I'm going to take a seat back down on the floor, and we'll begin the questioning with Councilor Caulfield after Ms. Prito-Brune makes her opening remarks. Yes, I did briefly explain the parameters, but approximately 3-minute opening statement, 5 minutes of questioning from each councilor, starting with Councilor Caulfield, and then a chance to sum up at the end. Okay.
Well, good evening. I was trying to think of, how to sort of distill ideas of vision and management and administration in 2 or 3 minutes. It was hard. So I thought I would take an example of recent experience at the university, and that's the master plan that we issued this spring, the $260 million master plan. I don't know how many of you are aware, that wasn't the first master plan. The first master plan we developed, a key piece of it, was the acquisition of St. Joseph's Hospital for our School of Health and Environment. And we worked for 2 years. We worked with the delegation to pass legislation to be able to acquire the building. We worked with the governor's office to make sure that they were in support of the acquisition. We worked with local developers to help us with the property transaction. And we worked with the university communities to help them try to distill their ideas of what they wanted to do in teaching and learning. And it was a good process. The St. Joseph's deal fell through. But what I've learned is that you can't sort of take a one-time stumble and let it affect the long-term vision. So the facilities department regrouped, took a look at all those things we learned in that process, and came out with a new way to accomplish the vision that we had looked for in the first master plan. And the result of that was the $260 million master plan. We were able to use all the work that the university went through. We were able to gain the support of the delegation because they knew what we were talking about. That whole previous experience wasn't wasted. I strongly believe that every institution or organization needs somebody in the role of helping to create the vision and then sustaining the vision and then going out and finding every possible way to attain the vision. That was my role in the master planning process. We didn't do it alone. We had a lot of help. But somebody had to be there to keep moving this forward. And I see similar opportunities in the city. I see the opportunity to develop the JAM plan as an area that can be a core for commercial and manufacturing and bring some jobs to Lowell. I see the continuing development of the acre and creating a truly revitalized neighborhood. And I see looking at what I think is a really unique aspect of Lowell, which is lifelong learning. I am intrigued and excited that a resident of Lowell can go from pre-K through PhD and not even have to own a car. Something like that is truly unique. It sets us apart from other cities all across the country, and that's just one thing. And I would really love to be able to participate in those kind of exciting challenges. Now, I'd love to sit here and say that the greatest challenge of any future city manager is to develop the JAM plan, and because that's exciting and it's engaging and people like hearing about it. But the other thing I learned about the master plan process was the only way we could accomplish it was because we had built the foundation, the financial foundation, the staffing foundation. We were able to embark on something like that. I truly believe that any city manager's really single biggest challenge is going to be those day-to-day things, making the city safer, improving the schools, strengthening the infrastructure, and making sure that every resident, every employee, every business person, every visitor to this city is treated with dignity and respect. And I think those are things that I've been able to show in all of my experiences. So with that, I have no idea how long that was, but with that, I will open it up to any questions that you have.
Councilor Caulfield.
Thank you. Hi, Diana. How are you?
I'm well, thank you.
As I told Paul Cohen, sit back and relax and and enjoy the interview, and I know that this council will give you a great interview. So thank you for being here. Looking at your resume, you have an excellent education. Cornell University, University of Virginia, internship at the Architectural Association, London, England. As the Vice Chancellor for Facilities, the most exciting times are ahead of us, all for you, with a $280 million renovation, building program. It's exciting for the university and so forth. And as you, as the Vice Chancellor for Facilities, why would you want to walk away from that and become Lowell City Manager?
Well, it's a good question because it's been a hard decision-making process for me. It is an exciting time at the university, and the university is a wonderful place to work. It's dynamic, it's creative, it's really wonderful. I don't think I'm walking away from anything. I think that the university's master plan is well on its way. I think I've had the opportunity to build a really great staff that is perfectly capable of implementing a plan like that. And I really feel as though it's time for me to sort of give back to a city that's been very good to me. And I think I can take a lot of those experiences that I've had at the university and bring them to the city. And as far as I'm concerned, the connection between the university and city can only get closer. So I just feel like I can participate in the university's plans in a whole different way.
Okay, I don't want to get into your personal salary at the university, but it must be a lot more than what Manager Cox made as city manager. And if it is, that's why I asked that question. Why would you want to give that up and come here as our city manager? But you answered that question. How would you manage, or what would you do differently than Manager Cox has done with the following? The new bridge over the Merrimack River, the controlled sewer overflow, the Stockloza School. If you can answer those, I'll be happy.
It's hard for me to say what I would do differently from the previous city manager, only because I wasn't there when the city manager made decisions. I didn't have all the information that a previous city manager would have. So I don't feel I'm in a position to second guess any decisions.
But would you
that
agree
were
with
made.
the bridge, the new bridge and the direction of the new bridge and so forth?
Again, I don't think at this point that I have enough information as a.
Well, you sat in on the meetings with me and Mayor Martin.
I think so, but I think we're still waiting for a lot of information on the environmental processes and a lot of other traffic information that we don't have. So I would have to say generally, I trust the city as the planning entity that makes these decisions for traffic. I certainly have concerns with the alignment of the bridge, none that I don't think that can't be resolved. And I think that the community obviously has some issues with the alignment of the bridge. Again, I don't know what all of those are and whether they can be resolved or not. But I think that it's hard for me to say that a decision is right or wrong because I don't have all that information. I don't know what the environmental impacts actually are. I don't know what the traffic counts actually are.
Diana, how would you, manager, handle the Stockloza School issue with the 3 missing classrooms? The city manager Cox was told by the council, get the 3 classrooms built, and that's what he did. But how would you handle that particular issue?
I would have done the same thing. If the council told me to get the 3 classrooms built, I'd build the 3 classrooms.
I didn't hear you.
I think if the council told me to build the 3 classrooms, I would definitely build the 3 classrooms.
Okay, thank you. Just a few more questions.
Sure.
The horrific flood we had in our city, May 12th, how would you have handled that?
I think the city did a terrific job with it. The university was lucky enough to be able to participate. We worked with MEMA and FEMA to set up recovery stations at the campus. We worked with the city police to set up their crisis management center on our campus. And I think the city did a fabulous job. It was tragic, and I think there was very little that anyone could have done to prepare for that, more than the city did.
Okay. Just a few more questions. The eminent domain process with Mr. Lachulis, the Hamilton Canal issue, how would you have handled that particular issue?
Again, I think eminent domain proceedings are complicated. They're complex, and I've never been a party to any of the negotiations, so it would be hard for me to say. I do believe you need to negotiate with all the property owners in this kind of thing, and if you can't come to an adequate resolution, then a last resort is an eminent domain proceeding.
Two last questions, and my colleagues get to the microphone. How would you negotiate with our city employees as far as contracts and unions and so forth?
Well, I've done union negotiations, and I think the most successful approach to it is to be straightforward, is to be open with with who you're negotiating with, get a team together that understands the work that needs to be done and how the employees need to get their work done properly, and then to be straightforward about what's possible and not possible within a union contract, and to hold the employees and the unions accountable for the decisions they make when they're doing a negotiation and when the contract's finally signed.
So you wouldn't bring in a independent negotiator, you would negotiate the contract?
I think if it came to an impasse, I might try to bring in somebody independent.
Thank you very much.
Sure.
Thank you. Good evening. You have an impressive background in planning and development, obviously, at the university and even before that at the city. As city manager, as Councilor Caulfield has alluded to, part of your duties would include unions and working with unions. Do you have any particular philosophy in terms of how you approach contract negotiations?
I've found in my experience it's actually interesting because I started my career in labor negotiations in the bus company in California. I was hired to negotiate that labor contract. And my experience has been in contract negotiations. One of the hardest things to do in a negotiation, I feel, is to evaluate a contract and get those things that may have one time been a good and useful thing in a contract, but are no longer, and try to reverse some of those. That's a hard thing to do in a negotiation, and you need, but I think is an essential piece to look at the contract as a whole, everything from the start to the finish, and see as a whole how it's going to operate for both for the city and for the employee. So I think you need to address negotiations with a strict framework of what your resources are and what you can give to that contract, and then have a clear understanding of what you're expecting from the other side, what you need from the other side to function properly. So I think it's clarity and accountability are the watchwords.
Can you tell me what, I think I asked the earlier interviewee, what three functions you think are most important that the city manager in Lowell serves? What are the three most, whether you want to call it functions, priorities, duties?
I think the first one is to manage the workforce, whether that's through union contracts or through administration and management. The budget right now, the budget at any time really for most cities, is always tight. And so you need to make sure that you can get, personnel is a huge piece of any city's budget. You need to make sure that you're using that piece most appropriately. So I think it's managing, it's making people understand what value they're bringing to the city, understand that they are valued, and that they need to be accountable for the work that they do. So managing the workforce is an important piece to this. I think the second piece is helping the council make budget decisions. I've learned long ago that if you want to know a company's or an institution's real policies, look at their budget, because they put their money where they think things are important. And so a city manager's job is to help make the budget process clear, get the information to the council so they can make the policy and the budget decisions that are going to move the city in the direction that they need to go in. And then the third, I think, is what I alluded to in my opening statement. Somebody who's there to help create a vision, a mood, if you will, and to sustain it, help people understand where the city's going, why the city is going there, and how we plan to get there. So I think those are the three fundamentals.
What do you think is the biggest challenge facing the city of Lowell right now? It's $1 million question. Well, it's probably a $280 million question.
That's right. I think it is definitely the budget at this point. I mean, I think it's just, you know, we have these ideas, and again, I have this experience with the university. You have these concepts of where you want to go and what you want to be, and they're wonderful, but you have to find how to get there within the resources that you have, and how you rearrange those resources, how you find opportunities for new resources, how you find partnerships. And I think the biggest challenge is going to take a good, honest look at the city's resources and what the city can actually accomplish with those.
Am I out of time? Oh, I got a minute left. Wow. How would you define the relationship between the city manager and the city council?
I see it as the council sets the policies. The council really runs the city. The council makes the decisions on where the city's going, how the city's going to get there. The manager's the one to give the council appropriate information so that they can make good and informed decisions, and then to implement the policies that the council puts forward.
I guess I'm out of time now. Thank you.
Hello. Good evening, Ms. Prudo-Brun. Nice to see you again. Just following up on the previous question, when it comes to the budget, it is true that the council does set the policy, but by the same token, I think the budget, it really is the, you know, it's the cog that runs the entire mechanism, if you will, where, and you present that, and the council either votes it up or down. So to some degree, it's a two-way street. I think you can take our policy directives and/or ideas, but what would be your priorities when it comes to resources? And we just finished budget deliberations. Where would you put the resources? What would be? I guess it's a follow-up to what would your priorities be?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think no city can be successful without strong schools, and I think that a really large piece of the budget goes to the schools, and appropriately so, and that's always going to be a tough decision to make, is to, you know, how many resources you can put to the schools. But I don't think a city can be truly successful without successful schools. I also think that there are certain basic services that residents expect, and those have to be provided. I mean, somebody puts their trash out on a Tuesday night, they want it picked up on a Wednesday morning. And I don't think that's too much to ask of a municipal government. So basic services, and then infrastructure. I do think, again, in my experience with the university, it is so easy sometimes to defer fixing that building or just putting a Band-Aid on that cooling system or doing something. And I have found that that's not a wise financial decision, that you need to be aggressive in your maintenance of public facilities. And so I would like to see resources going in that area as well.
Can I press you just a little bit more
do.
and be a little bit more specific? And I appreciate your answer. But when and that's exactly what we're faced with. Okay, we have the schools on one side, and then we do have, you know, I'll just say public safety. I can tell you, I receive calls after calls for streets and sidewalks, and there's limited amount of money, as we all know. But what, as well as economic development and JAM money, what would be, in no particular order, but just a couple of areas where you think that we should prioritize our money? And I'll even present the caveat that we're down police officers, we're down firefighters. I think we're lagging significantly behind in fixing our streets and our sidewalks. The state's not stepping up to the plate to the point that we should. I mean, I can remember the governor promised us $4 million in cobblestones that never came through. So, long-winded question. Maybe just a couple examples. Where would you put our money? Just say on the city side.
In the city side. Well, I mean, I think there are certain fundamentals. There's the schools. there's public safety, and there are basic city services. I would say you'd have to start with that. You're going to want to reserve some money for economic development and those things that are going to ensure the city's sustainability over time. But when it comes down to basic budget things, sometimes those you're going to have to find alternative means of funding those things. I mean, you have a limited amount of resources. I also do think there are ways to find resources. I know that at the university, when I was appointed Vice Chancellor for Facilities, the first thing I did was hire an energy manager. And I'm proud to say that this year we were one of the few institutions in this state that came within its energy budget, because we managed our energy. There are savings that you can make if you do strategic investments in the right areas.
Thank you. Following up, what is your experience with developing budgets? State budgets are different. I mean, I think the principles are the same, but developing, I think municipal is a little bit different because we have so many funding resources, and we're a large portion of our money coming from the state in forms of either Chapter 70. What is your experience at UMass Lowell in developing? Because I do applaud your background in urban development and design and planning, and that's why I'm sort of shifting to the other area, because I think the budget is a huge part of this job.
And I absolutely agree with you. I manage a $15 million budget. I have to manage balance personnel, in-house personnel with contract personnel. I have to balance the needs of basic utilities with the needs of housekeeping and keeping buildings clean. I have to balance capital investment versus maintenance investment. It's $15 million in operating. It's another probably around $20 million a year in capital investment that we also do, we balance. And I also think if you look back at my experience with the Arena Commission, I mean, it was managing a capital project, but it was really managing an operation where we did also have to determine what is the balance between staffing and administrative resources and resources in the field and resources going to the capital project. So I've spent a lot of time building budgets, and as I said, a budget really shows where you think important things are.
Right. I know I'm going to get cut off, but just real brief, or maybe, I'll set the stage. Public safety, I think, is one of the public safety, finance, education, three big components of municipal government. Can you explain, I noticed that you, in this current job, the police, university police are under your jurisdiction. Can you explain some experience with that, please?
Well, when I inherited the police department, we didn't have a chief. We had lost the chief, so we went on a search for a new chief. And we had a department that was really a little bit at sea, not really understanding what their mission was exactly for the university. So it was quite a job, really, to start working with a new chief to try to build a vision for that public safety department. I think that we're seeing a lot of clarity now with the police. Our campus safety is very good. We're building relationships with the city police and trying to resolve those issues of what's appropriate for university police, what's appropriate for city police, and this balance of enforcement with community interaction, which has always been a problem. We've never really had enough of a police force to dedicate people exclusively towards reaching out to the university community, but we've been able to do that now.
Does the chief report to you?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Welcome, Diane. I think the question still comes back in the minds of some of us. I know it does to me and a lot of people on the street, and it's why. Everyone that I know wants to go in academia. It's like dying and being in heaven. You're the first person that I know wants out of there, but not necessarily, as you said, out for the sake of being out. The background you possess is clearly development-oriented. Excellent job, excellent credentials. But it also, your credentials also lack municipal type of experiences like the tax rate, the cherry sheet, the budget, and all of those things. How would you, before I get some specific, how would you counter that? I mean, you must recognize, of course, that that's where the light side is, or am I reading this wrong?
No, I don't disagree with you. I think part of successful management is getting the right people around you to do the work. Okay. And I don't really think that as a city manager, The majority of the job will be the actual, sort of nuts and bolts developing of the budget. It's working with a chief financial officer that can bring in the information of the cherry sheets, bring in the information of Chapter 70 money that's coming in, bringing in all of these things, and creating a cohesive budget. I think that it's the management of that that's critical.
Okay. You mentioned a couple of times schools, public safety.
Yes.
How about neighborhood services? That hasn't been mentioned. That's as big as it's as big as a priority as the schools and public safety, because the taxpayers would like to have their services delivered in the neighborhoods, streets, lights, sidewalks, all that stuff. And besides, where does that fit into your vision of priority?
Well, I think I talked a lot about basic services and how important those are. And, as an example, my work at the university, essentially I'm the operations arm of this campus, which means I am responsible for providing all the basic services, from steam for the heat, running the steam plants and keeping the buildings clean and keeping the residence halls going. And this is the operations is what I do. And it's what I feel very strongly about, that you have to get that piece right, because that's really the services that people are paying for.
So that would be a priority along with
Absolutely,
the other two.
yes.
You mentioned a little while ago about a concern you might have about the alignment of the bridge going across the Merrimack. And you mentioned community involvement. Are your concern based on this, quote, community activists that are concerned about the alignment, as opposed to our state representative and our city manager and the city government?
No.
You're not being guided by that?
No,
Community
I believe in community participation, and I'm an advocate of hearing from the community. We've done that a lot at the university, and I think it's done us well. But no, I think what my concern is, and I don't even know if it's a concern yet, the fact is that there isn't enough information for me to make a determination. I think there's a lot of information still that at least the university doesn't have, as far as what how that alignment is going to impact other things. So that's the only concern, is just the information.
Okay. After spending 15 years in Lowell, you decided to move to Dracut.
I did.
Commendable, but a loss to the city of Lowell. Would you consider, if you become city manager, moving back to Lowell and becoming a taxpayer?
Well, I was just thinking to myself, maybe we could just annex Dracut, but no.
No,
I don't think that my residence reflects at all my commitment in Lowell. I think my professional work demonstrates my commitment.
All right. Now, would you be requesting a leave of absence from the university in order to do this job?
No.
So you'd be severing your ties completely?
Absolutely. I think it's not fair to the university to ask them to do something like
And on
that.
the same token, would you then be looking for a contract as part of this job?
No.
Okay. Okay. My time is up, I guess, so we'll move on to someone else.
Okay.
Thank you. Good evening, Diana. As you know, he took another few of my about moving to Lowell. I have this thing about people that put so much into the city and then leave it to move elsewhere. I feel bad about that, and that would have been my number one question. And I think you're looking over here at my notes, but anyway.
I'm getting concerned about having
I'll
to
tell
be
you,
on the same page
actually,
as
I
you.
looked for over a year for a property in Lowell that I could afford, and I couldn't, so I had
So
to
you're
move.
saying that the tax rate or whatever in Dracut is better, is that?
No,
the
the pri-
values are lower, the higher.
The prices,
Our value of the properties are
prices
higher
were
in
better,
Lowell,
yes.
okay. So on the same token, I'm happy to hear you would not want a contract, because I wouldn't be offering one. That's my personal opinion. And the salary scale, as you know, is between $125,000 and $145,000. So if this council supported not going the higher route and we offered $125,000, would you still be interested?
I think that would be, I'd like to discuss that at a point where anybody's decided what they want to do with this.
Nobody's
So-
being clear. It's like we'll discuss it in the executive
Well,
session room.
Yeah, I just think, actually, Counselor, it's a hard thing to talk about in theory. I think you need to get down to what life really is before you can get down to those kinds of things.
And one of my questions would have been, what is your vision for Lowell? And you did explain that, and you did say that one of them would be improving the schools. How will you improve the schools?
Well, I don't think the city manager directly can so much improve the schools as to support the superintendent and the school committee in their vision for improving the schools. I'm not an educator, and I have learned at the university that there are educators with true and marvelous vision out there. And so I would look to them to say, here are ways that we can improve the schools. How can we together get there?
Were you one of the people solely responsible for bringing in that financial money to the university? How did the university attain $266 million? Did you have anything to do with, like, lobbying our legislators to bring that money in from the state? How did that work?
Yeah, we don't have all of that money yet, but we recently got a good piece of it, which we're very happy to see that $35 million come. Yes,
Well,
I
you
was...
got 70 for nanotechnology,
Yeah.
did you?
Yes, I was involved in that. I was involved in, I helped write the business plan for our nanotech center, and I worked with a delegation on the plans for that, absolutely. But obviously not alone. There was a lot of people were involved in that.
And let me just say that I did praise you a few weeks ago for your handprint being on many things in the city, in particular the University Avenue with the infrastructure and the Victorian lights, and it's a gateway into the city, and I praise you for that. And I still hold that true, that you did a magnificent job. But when I asked you if some of that money that you're getting the windfall in could have been used to the university, you didn't think twice to tell me that it isn't anything to do with the university. No, we couldn't. And I felt taken aback by that response for the simple reason that I don't like to hear no or we can't or I won't. I know you're being honest, but I would have liked to find a way to do it. Because when the university had their rowing crew there, it was a huge part of the university, and to just be severing your ties and not willing to help an entity that was once yours, I was taken aback by that. So,
Well, I should say that you're right, that that the boathouse, I believe you're speaking of the boathouse, we weren't able to give money to the boathouse because we didn't own it, but I'm happy to say that I think we are very close to being able to own that facility and being able to invest in it. So I don't think the university was stopping its efforts to help the city and help the community in that way. It was just that at that time, the master plan money couldn't go to a building that the university didn't own, and I was being honest about that.
you were being honest, and I admire you for that, but I'm being honest as well by telling you that if we could have had a wonderful partnership with our school department, because we do have a Lowell High School rowing team, and I like them to have a top-notch facility there too. And I thought the university could partner in and helping us out, such as the city did with the university when your rowing crew was there. But that's a discussion for another day.
Sure.
Thank you for being here. I totally appreciate it and admire you, because this is not an easy thing. And so thank you, Diana.
Thank you.
Good evening, Diana.
Good evening.
Thank you for your interest in the city manager's position. I'd like to begin by talking a little bit about vision. I think it's important for the city manager to have a vision for the community, but how do you relate or balance vision with reality? And I guess I'd be more specific in looking at the Hamilton Canal District and knowing that we're about to go out for RFQs for, to select a master developer for that 14.5 acre site, when the real estate market is really not what it was, say, 2 years ago. So how do you balance vision for, say, the Hamilton Canal District with reality of what's going on today?
It's a very good question. The Hamilton Canal, I think, is an amazing opportunity for the city. I think that the residential development that's gone on here in the city has helped make the city attractive to a number of people coming in, and is sort of the foundation to bring in what I think is critical, which is something that can create some jobs. I think you really need to find a base for employment in the city. And at this time, with the real estate the way it is, and things not being so definite, it may be a time for the city to start looking at other ways to accomplish things for the long run. It may be a land banking, it may be taking more financial risk in order to leverage other monies. I remember when I was working in the Division of Planning and Development, and Cross Point had just been bought, and we put together the plan for a $5 million letter of credit that got that building, got an anchor tenant in that building. Creative ways to do that. It may mean that development isn't going to be easy, and it may mean that development may not happen fast, but I think it's critical to look at that area for the long run and what it can do for the city for its future.
Thank you. Affordable housing question. Even though Lowell exceeds the state average for affordable housing, threshold, if you will, what is your position or opinion on bringing additional affordable housing into the neighborhood? And would you support some affordable housing in the Hamilton Canal area as well?
I think, although probably it seems unfair that there's so much affordable housing in Lowell, the truth of the matter is Lowell needs affordable housing. And so I am a proponent of trying to develop affordable housing and making sure that the people who've grown up in Lowell can stay in Lowell. I wouldn't preclude any affordable housing in the Hamilton Canal. I think it's part of an overall plan of how that whole district can work together. But I am a strong proponent of developing affordable housing in the city.
Thank you. How about working with neighborhood groups? We have been working on the zoning code recently and trying to improve how the zoning issues are dealt with the neighborhood groups. What's your position on using that document really as an instrument to try to improve the quality of life in some of our neighborhoods?
I think it's a great way of doing it. I've found, particularly with the master plan, that when you have something to look at, it starts a conversation not only on what that document says, but on a whole lot of other things. And so going out into the communities and discussing those issues is important. And it's interesting because also when I was working in DPD, we did individual neighborhood plans, and we went out to each neighborhood community group and started talking about what they wanted for their own neighborhoods. So I think it's a wonderful opportunity with the good work that's gone on in planning for the city to engage the neighborhoods in getting a better idea, make them think a little bit clearer about what they want.
And one final question. Marketing the community. What would your approach be to marketing Lowell as either a destination city or a city to relocate?
I think it's the hard work. A lot of the hard work has already been done. We've got great cultural institutions here. It's a wonderful place to play. The housing that's been going on, it's a wonderful place to live. I think it should be a wonderful place to work if we can find the jobs. And I do think we need to take a look at this, again, this aspect of the city that we have every range of education available right here. And it's not just standard education, but it's continuing education and it's cultural education. And I think that should all be part of the marketing. I am a booster of Lowell. I think it is one of the greatest cities in the country. And I think that it's the marketing piece of it is finding those catchphrases that'll get other people's ears. But it's an easy city to market because it has so much going for it.
Great. Thank you, and good luck.
Thanks.
Good evening, Vice Chancellor Prideaux-Bruin, and thank you for coming. I have to tell you, this is probably the best cover letter I think I've ever read. I think you certainly made your case. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to ask you if you could give me an example of a couple of things that you highlighted in the second paragraph, and it reads, I have seen a city with an extraordinary capacity to create partnerships, advance projects, and create opportunities. And if you could give me an example of each one of those.
Sure. I have yet to experience a city with a stronger dedication and teamwork. When this city decides it wants to do something, it absolutely gets done. And as with everything, the hard part is the decision. But once the decision's made, it's done. The examples that I have which come to mind most clearly are obviously what I was involved in, the arena and the ballpark and the river walk and the roadway improvements and all that. A $58 million development that started with a $20 million commitment from the state. And that was purely through partnerships, through relationships with the delegation, both on the state and on the federal level, and with the community at large. And I think that that's an example of how those projects can happen. I think I've worked on, I'm on the board of the House of Hope Housing, and this is the House of Hope is a relatively small family shelter, but with the help of the city and partnerships from a number of different agencies and from the private sector and donations, we were able to develop 10 units of affordable housing in the acre that I'm really proud to say I was a part of. And that all had to do with a group of people in the city deciding that this was something that needed to be done. And so it goes from the level of delegation and elected officials all the way down to the residents of Lowell. And as far as opportunity goes, I guess the best example I have is myself. I think Lowell has given me extraordinary opportunity to grow as a professional and to grow as a person. And it's purely because Lowell is willing to listen to ideas, talk about them, and find the good and the bad in them.
Thank you. You've spoken about collective bargaining, Plan E, large economic projects, urban renewal, the role of education. What's the role of the city manager in the ongoing cultural development in the city, do you see?
I think one of the challenges with the cultural community in Lowell is that it is so sensitive to economic swings. When people are short of money, they're not going to go buy the play ticket or go to the museum. And people are, when money is tight, they don't donate the way they should. So economic cycles hit our community very hard. I would love to see a way that the city could participate in helping to level those dips out for the cultural community, because it's going to help them sustain themselves, but it's also going to help them grow in the good times. So I think that's part of it, and I think part of the city manager's role as well is to bring all of the cultural institutions together to talk to each other about how they can help each other get through these economic times, because I think that's the biggest threat to our cultural institutions is the vagaries of the economic climate.
Thank you. Just lastly, how should the citizenry of the city view you as the city manager?
How should they, or how would I like them to?
You can answer both.
Okay. What I would like people to see in the city manager is somebody that's open to criticism, willing to respond to ways of making things better, open to the community at large. I would like to see them as a conduit to the city council, so that their concerns can be organized and presented to the council in a way that makes decision-making easier. I would like to see the residents of Lowell see the city manager as someone who's working for them.
Thank you very much.
Sure.
Good luck.
Thanks. I was intrigued. Your resume and your background certainly is well known to all of us, and I think we have a lot of respect for your ability to get a special project done. We have some of those ahead of us in the JAM plan and elsewhere. But I guess I was intrigued by your comment that, what really matters here is the day-to-day operation and management of the budget. And it seems you have a little less experience. I absolutely agree. I think you're right, because if you have a $5 million budget shortfall, you're not going to be doing any urban renewal plan. So can you speak to what your background at the university or elsewhere has given you the tools or the ability to do, or an example of how you've restructure the department or solve the budget problem or something like that?
Sure. I think one of the things first of all, just more generally, what I think one thing that people are misled by when you manage a project is that they see the construction and the building, and that's what they think you do. But for instance, in the arena, part of building that arena was creating the system, the department, the people, and the budget to get that happening. I mean, I don't know if you remember the history, but there was a first try, I suppose, at the arena that didn't go very well. And at that point, I was chief planner, and I was asked to create recovery plans that would work. And the recovery plan that I developed and that was chosen was to create an internal staffing to implement that. So the building of the arena was not just the building of the arena, it was building a staff and an administration and a budget and doing that. So that's one thing when people say, well, you're just a project manager and you don't know about budgeting or management. I always question that because it takes a lot of management to manage a project. However, to answer your question more specifically, when I took on the role of Vice Chancellor for Facilities, the operations of the university were scattered across different areas of campus. The police were under one area, housekeeping was under another area, special events was over there. It was all sort of a mishmash. And what I realized in actually the budgeting process was that we weren't getting any economies. We weren't being able to use departments, cross-train, and use departments together in an efficient way. And so it was a long process because in institutions it's really hard to change management structure. But it was a long process that evolved into really all of the on-the-ground operations for the university coming under my purview. And so that was really a restructuring of an entire division to help each of the departments work more efficiently. I've been able to manage that operation level funded for the last 3 years. And I think that you've seen over the last 3 years some real improvements to the campus itself. That money all came from efficiencies in management so that we could devote more money to the more visible improvements on the campus.
Thank you. One of the things I've enjoyed about being mayor is people running for governor actually ask you what you think about things, and I've met 4 out of the 5 candidates, and they all come up and they say, what do you need here in Lowell? And my first answer is always that we need jobs here in Lowell more than anything. Mm-hmm. And how can you help us get there? What's your plan for that? Because you obviously think that's important too.
I think it's hugely important. I honestly believe that the partnership between the city and the university is the key to jobs right now. I think the university is on the cusp of creating some really dynamic research that is going to create good paying and sustainable jobs. I think the university has the right idea. And I've learned from that. And I think partnering with the university and finding opportunities in that partnership is going to be a way that the city sets itself apart and can draw small businesses and mid-sized businesses into this community. And I really think that's where the future of the job market is.
Okay. Do I have time for one more? Have you had any dealings with health insurance or bringing health budgets under control in your functions at the university?
I've worked peripherally, but I'm not going to tell you I know that area of the business very well.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Mm-hmm. I think we're back down the other end now.
Thank you. Billy, you just took 2 out of my 3 questions. Good evening, and thank you for coming, Ms. Prudo-Broom. And Cross Healthcare off, I have kind of a general question for you. With the issues of salaries and wages that dominate the budget, the arts, the sporting events, and the cultural climate that we have in Lowell, how would you propose to come up with a capital expenditure plan, and where would you get the money from to deal with, I mean, this is a tired old city. We've got, I think, was a report before of $30 million plus or minus in streets and sidewalk repairs. This all goes towards the neighborhoods. And obviously, you know, we can only borrow so much, we can only raise taxes so much, which we don't like to do at all. And you know, what kind of ideas do you have in terms of improving and repairing our infrastructure?
Well, I think you've hit the critical problem here, that there are only a few solutions to finding resources. And that is a matter of balancing what you can bond, how you need the tax rate to be, and what services that you require. And those things are always going to be competing with each other. And I think the city manager's role is to really try to make those decisions clear-cut for the council, which says that if you want streets and sidewalks to be improved, this is what's going to be the cost, and here's a way to finance it. I am really good at managing projects, but I'm not a miracle worker. I can't make a project cost less than it's going to cost. So it's a matter of managing the resources. And I don't have a good answer for that, because it is going to cost money, and where that money comes from is going to be a balance that the council and the manager are going to have to work together to find the solution for.
Is that something you think should be in a yearly budget, some type of infrastructure improvements and things like that?
Absolutely. I think that it needs to be. I think there needs to be regular bonding for infrastructure improvements, because my feeling is the longer you leave an infrastructure problem out there, the more expensive it becomes.
The university, you said you handle the police, the university, the campus police?
Yes.
Do you lease or buy vehicles?
We buy vehicles right now. We're looking into lease-own for vehicles, but at this point, I think the way our insurance structure works and a number of other things, that outright purchase is still the right option for the university. But we did investigate a lot of different ways of doing it.
I guess I'll ask you the tough question. Your resume, cover letter, as other councilors have alluded to, is very, very strong. The weakness that I see is in the administrative end, in the municipal administration, whether it's collective bargaining, which is going to be huge now. You know, you hear about the health care, the concerns here. Council Caulfield has raised it numerous times, the cost of health care. And could you address, do you have, I mean, I'm sure you've thought about this, and how would you address that, the idea or that your weakness may be in the administration end and not more suited to the building end?
Yeah, and again, I just don't think that's the case. I mean, I think I have demonstrated my administrative capability. I mean, just the fact that in the 2.5 years I've been vice chancellor, I have grown. I mean, my success in administration has given the chancellor confidence to give me more and more responsibilities in departments that are further and further away from basic real estate development, so that I am managing the police. I am managing a lot of other things that normally, you know, someone might not have given me if I didn't have the administrative capability that I do. I think, frankly, I'm a very good administrator and a very good manager. I've had quite a bit of experience in collective bargaining. I mean, I operate right now under 3 separate labor agreements, one of which we just finished bargaining last year. And although probably the dollar amounts are a little bit smaller, I don't believe that the issues that were discussed were any less critical than any other collective bargaining contract out there. I actually dispute the fact that administration is my weakness. I think that because I'm a strong administrator, I have been able to show great success in project management. And I'm known for project management just because you can drive by and see that work. You can't drive by and see the work that I've done in organization and management of people.
Okay. Again, I know some of these questions have been asked. I've been stressing since in my short tenure here that the need for more commercial in an effort to balance, and I'm getting the signal that we're done here. Is that something that I think you've addressed it, you would like to see more of it in, I guess probably won't even get to the question because I'm getting the signal again. But thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, if you want to sum up, you're free to give a closing statement, but it's completely up to you. If you'd rather stand on what you've told us, that's perfectly sufficient as well, so.
All right, well, I want to thank you for this conversation. I've actually really enjoyed it. I think that it would be a pleasure to work with every single one of you. I guess the one thing that I would like to say is that it is really hard to present, you know, a lifetime professional achievement on 2 pieces of paper and an hour of questions, and I admire you all for sticking to 5 minutes, by the way. I stand by my work. I've spent 15 years in Lowell, and I think I've done some really good work in Lowell, and I would like that to be really what you look at when you look at whether you think I'm suitable for city manager. I mean, I've shown a dedication to the city, and no matter how this process turns out, my career is in Lowell, and I will be doing everything I can to make Lowell as great a city as it can possibly be. So thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you. Okay, why don't we take a brief break, 2 minutes if we could, and we'll get the next candidate in.